maybe the greatest dunks in the history of the game.
Here's how special the slam dunk is. If you want to be celebrated and remembered at a halftime presentation with even a featured video, there's 3 ways to do it. First, win a championship. Then you can come out with the whole team and feel like a hero. Second, be a God-blessed superstar. Typically, you're gonna lead your team in scoring for 5 to 10 years, take your team deep in the playoffs, and overachieve. Number 3, dunk the funk out of the ball. Just once. Do it one good time, and bam! You'll never be forgotten. This is not the case with any other play across all of sports. Of course, time and place helps, like if it's a playoff dunk, then sheesh. And if it's on top of another team's star, then you might as well retire the rim.
In your face, Kevin Johnson! Oh my!
But here's what I mean. You guys all remember this dunk. On this dunk's anniversary, they had a full-blown halftime celebration for the dunk.
You'll be seeing that on your local newscast.
A dunk from a series that Kevin Johnson and the Suns lost. A dunk from an actual game that they lost is vaulted and celebrated 20 years later. So let's raise the stakes. Now to our topic of the day. This is what I consider a non-disputable fact. This dunk and sequence and culmination of story threads makes for the best dunk in the history of basketball. And I'm not just saying this to be dramatic, I mean it literally. This is the best dunk in the 70 years of professional basketball. Roll it. Sure, there's trickier dunks. There's fancier dunks. There's even more important dunks. Maybe I might just be saying that, just to get a third thing. But this dunk and surrounding occurrences check every box, fills in every bubble to pass as GOAT dunk. GOAT dunk. Okay, let's do this. We're gonna dive deep into this one, okay? This might take a while. All right, let's introduce all of the main characters in our GOAT dunk play. Let's start at the top. Scottie. First of all, Scottie is the quintessential sidekick. Other than Robin, he is actually the reference for sidekicks. If you're ever trying to discuss a sidekick status, it goes Batman, Robin, then Michael Scottie. That is it. So ironically, being the sidekick of Air himself, the dunk master general, being the sidekick of the man, to end up with the best dunk in the history of dunks is a little ironic and maybe fulfilling. It's sweet, it's deserving maybe, okay? But Scottie, even the name Scottie, I don't believe that's short for anything. It's not Scottathon, Scottathy, Scott-UL, it's just Scottie. I looked it up. His real name is Scottie. If you were trying to construct a textbook sidekick, you'd come up with a name similar to Scottie. A slightly inferior sounding name. It's one that stands beside the main name. It's not Scott. It's not Michael and Scott. Michael Scott. That's funny. It's Michael and Scottie. Like Jimmy. Jimmy Olsen. Even to an extent, Bucky. Captain America's superhero sidekick. And then Snoopy, Chewie, Scottie, Ernie, Trinity, Donkey, Dory, Penny. If there is a key to naming a sidekick, give them a name that fits perfectly on a 5-year-old. Scottie. Next, good old Patrick Ewing. One of the last of his kind. A true center. We do have to give him some nobility points here because, well, what he's doing by trying to get under this and block it, that's a very respectable thing to attempt. I don't think there's a star player in the past 15 years that would get between the hoop and this particular attempt. A lot of folks will try to slap it away from behind, but not here. Patrick fits his role perfectly. He's a perfect 7-footer, which is perfectly casted. If you're talking about the best dunk of all time, well, it has to be over a 7-footer, right? If he's 6'10", well, we probably don't even mention the height, but as a true 7-foot giant, it becomes another detail, another legend step to the top of the mountain. and he was known as a shot blocker. It's peak everything. Patrick was averaging 3 blocks a game in those playoffs, the 94 playoffs. 21 points and nearly 12 rebounds and 3 blocks. And of course, the elephant missing from the room, the character that is not present, since this was 1994. Do you remember what was different about 1994? This was Scottie's solo act, Jordan Free. Jordan was out whiffing at baseballs, getting high on the back of buses, or gambling on the back of buses, doing something illegal. And don't even play yourself here. Our little Jimmy, Scottie,
To lead all scores.
almost won MVP that year.
Scottie Pippen, definitely a contender with Hakeem Olajuwon and David Robinson for MVP.
They won 55 games, and Scottie's number 2 was Horace Flipping Grant with 15 points a game. You know who his number 3 was? BJ Armstrong with 14 points a game. What? We talk about these super teams. This team was basically the 2016-17 Oklahoma City Thunder, except if Russ would have taken his team to the Western Conference semifinals all the way to 7 games. This is really one star and a collection of basketball players, professional basketball players, a lot who have just wandered from team to team over the years. I mean, Tony Kukoc wasn't that year. Also, you know how many all-star appearances the players on that team have accumulated? Between all of those players, minus Scottie Pippen, all of the players on the Bulls team, there were only 2. And both of them were questionable, especially the BJ Armstrong one. That year, he made the all-star team as a starter. And I believe that's just because people are so used to giving the Bulls 2 that they had to fill in another bubble. So they gave it to BJ, who would never make another all-star team. But the Bulls were kicking ass. And this was an intense series with the Knicks. This is game 6 of a 7-game series. It was real. Patrick knew this may be his only real chance. And Scottie, he had the weight on his shoulders all on him. Finally. Okay, next character. Spike Jeffrey Lee. Spike. By 1994, we had reached quintessential purified Spike. He was already on top of the world with his Do the Right Thing movie from a few years back. The campaign with Michael Jordan as Mars, that was in full effect.
Do you know how I get up for my game? Do you know? That's right. Air Jordan, Air Jordan, Air Jordan.
And this was the same playoff that would give us the choke. Remember the choke? If you don't know, when he got into a heated talk battle with Reggie Miller.
Miller in an animated discussion with Spike Lee.
Spike talked so much trash. Reggie Miller iconically put his hands around his neck, signaling what he thought of the Knicks. They were choking. They were known for choking, actually, and blowing it. And Spike got credited for igniting a Reggie Miller explosion, 25 points in a fourth quarter, to take a 3-2 lead over Spike's hometown.
What about Spike Lee? Spike who? We will see you on Friday.
This dunk was the series before that. It wasn't Spike's introduction to the sideline trolling god status, but these playoffs were Act 1.
I never ever had any interplay with an athlete before like that, ever.
Yo, Mars Blackman here with my main man, Michael Jordan.
Spike Lee was almost a decade into his partnership with Michael Jordan, co-starring in those quote-unquote memorable commercials. He is a deadpan hype man based on his character
Mars Blackman, and this is my main man, Michael Jordan.
This character worshipped Mike. But then the guy who plays that guy shows up to games and talks the most possible. All 4'11" of him, standing up on the sideline like he owns the court, feeling big and probably superior to a lowly sidekick like Scottie. Spike was big. Spike only hung with the man, the coolest of the kids. He didn't make appearances with Scottie. Scottie didn't even have a shoe, which is crazy by today's standard. Everybody has a shoe. Quentin Richardson had a shoe. Scottie didn't get his own signature shoe until 1999. This seems absurd. The disrespect. Speaking of disrespect, have you seen his statue? This is what they call a bust, I guess. But this is his statue. The guy who was also a key part of every single one of their championships gets this. It looks like he's standing in a box. It basically looks like that somebody put a Scottie Pippen statue inside of a garbage can. That's what it looks like. But anyway, so Spike popped up and down out of his little crusty folding chair like he was the official spokesperson of Shit Talkers International. He was feeling like the embodiment of Jordan on the sideline. And for all we know, Scottie hated this. Why was his running buddy, why would the leader of his team be hanging out with this guy, making money with this guy? Why the hell was MJ working with the number one hater? We don't know if Scottie understood separation in characters. We don't know what he understands. Now we do know MJ was out there molding his own legend, so he understands. Maybe not, maybe he's psychotic. Okay, but there's tension there, potentially, who knows? But we do know Scottie is very aware of this character, Spike Lee. So as this monstrous dunk concludes, Scottie's momentum and his swagger propels him right towards the main off-court antagonist. And he's standing and he's jabbering. And Scottie, without missing a single beat, which he has continued to hit, and barrels right along and with zero hesitation says, "Sit down. Sit down. Sit the down. Sit down." And he does it with the proper amount of smirk and salt. Just look at it. Just look at this path. At any other time, there's so many variations. This is not the path. It is a perfect parabola, perfect arc to get to Spike. If it happened in a different half, happened from a different angle, it's not going to deliver him right to Spike. And let's just look at the wit and the timing of it all, and the directness. After a huge play on the road, telling the crowd to shush has got to be the most satisfying thing. And it's just fun. It's a fun thing to see. Whenever athletes interact with the crowd, especially when it's on the opposing crowd, it's like breaking the court wall, the fourth wall. And when one individual gets singled out, it makes for terrific television. Remember this guy, Purple Man, Purple Rain?
But I tell you what, Purple Shirt Man got to sit down. And somebody's got to control him.
They mocked him. They said he should have kept silent. Come on, you television corporate employees, you fully understand this makes great entertaining television. And it adds another storyline. And a good announcer knows just what to do with it. But we all have to act like we're just not aware that we're here to only be entertained. And then we want everyone to be classy and act with consideration.
You don't have the right to be disrespectful on the sideline. Good call, Mark.
This as we longingly anticipate for someone to get shamefully embarrassed and violently dunked on. The great part about this moment is that Scottie gets to do this, but he gets to do it at home. So we also get the explosion from the crowd, from the home crowd. Plus, we get the player to fan shut up moment. This is every single aspect of a great dunk all wrapped in one. I'm just telling someone to sit down. It's classic. It's a classic line. It doesn't get any simpler and effective than telling someone to sit down. It's timeless. So now, the execution and the timing. Just the pure timing of it all. You can't choreograph a better sequence of perfection matched with idiocy at the same time. This really plays as some sort of like Bruce Lee fight scene, or maybe a Power Rangers scene versus the putties. Right out of the gate here, this fall, who the F is this? You know who it is? Ron Harper. That's who it is. He just looks like an old man who got tired and needed to lay down, like he fainted. Did he just get bamboozled by the bounce pass? But wait, hold on there. We'll get back to Ron in a second. Watching from this angle, you gotta notice Patrick Ewing and what he's doing. He's not paying any mind to the development of this play. Sure, this type of inattention to the developing play may not work today, but that game, that day, Patrick freaking Ewing had one job, and he owned the heck out of it. Get to the paint and defend the rim. That's a soldier, that's a leader. But it's just so amazing to roll this back and see these two supreme freaks of nature and focus lining up from either side, heading to the same goal with conflicting intentions. At this point, they probably both know exactly what's going to happen. You know Scottie has all dunk intentions, and Patrick has the defense of the rim ingrained in his being. They are headed for a pure, devastating confrontation in the sky, and only one man will prevail and one man will fall. Okay, but back to this joke face here. Craig's play was to kick the ball. I guess that's an okay decision, but it's all or nothing. He took himself out of the play, and with zero to show for it. It's like one of these idiot suicide bombers that hits the button too early, and they're the only one who ends up blowing into pieces. But the point is, he could have kept backing up and helped out somehow, but instead, he took a back seat, or a seat on his back, and looks like a dummy. Now let me introduce you to this next portion. This is indisputably the second most impressive part of this entire play. Completely deserving NBA All-Star starter B.J. Armstrong delivers a one-handed bounce pass that takes down a defender like a gentle bowling pin during a local county Special Olympics qualifying night, and his bounce pass hit number 20. Look him up. I'm looking him up now. Number 20 on the Bulls in '94 is a gentleman named Pete Myers. Remember this man, because Pete Myers is my new obsession player. I'm now going to be obsessed with Pete Myers until I get him on the show. Okay, Mr. Myers played 12 NBA seasons, with a 2-year break in the middle to play overseas. Peter, in his first 8 seasons of his career, was traded or waived 7 times. 7 times in his first 8 seasons. Then, he goes to Italy for 2 years. Then he comes back to the States and gets picked up by the Chicago Bulls, where he plays 2 seasons. Then, anticipating getting dropped, he signs with the Charlotte Hornets, who immediately trade him to the Miami Heat, who soon after decide to get out of the Pete Myers business, echoing a third of the league and waiving him. Pete somehow continues to float in the league, playing 4 more seasons. And how did that work out? You guessed it, he was waived or traded by each and every one of them. What the hell? Okay, Mr. Myers, over his career, barely plays. He barely played a quarter of the season for any season, meaning he didn't get in the games. And it wasn't because of injury, it was because of DNPs. CDNPs. CDDNP. Coach's decision, did not play. He only played 20 to 35 games a season, and he only averaged about 10 minutes a game. And he scored between 2 to 5 points per game. That was his average. And you know where these points and minutes are coming from? Garbage time. So do these points and minutes even matter? No. Then, here, with the Bulls, Myers was the weirdest, or maybe the most amazing, part of any of this story. Let me just give it some context here. In 1991, in his 9th NBA season, on his 6th team, he played a total of 8 games, averaging 2 points for the Spurs, before having 0 teams interested in him, and he was shipped off to Italy. Pete returned to the NBA in 1993-94 to the Jordan-less Bulls, and he played, guess what, every single game that year. All 82 games. All 82 regular season games. He averaged 24 minutes a game. Those minutes are 4th most on the team, his most ever. And guess what? Yes, he started. He was a starter. He started in the Jordan position. He was the replacement for Jordan in terms of positions. He started on a 55-win team and played key minutes versus the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round, a team who they swept. And in this series versus New York, he played major minutes in all 7 games. Back to my other point about how jacked up this team was and how little credit Scottie gets, the starting 5 for this team, for the defending championship team, was Scottie, sidekick Pippen, BJ, the ever-deserving one-time All-Star, Horace, the poor man's Charles Oakley Grant, or maybe that's the other way around, Bill Cartwright, owner of this shot form, and Pete flipping Myers, the starting shooting guard of the Chicago Bulls. What the flipping floor. What happened here? What happened in Italy? We make a lot of assumptions here, but something happened in Italy. Maybe he learned how to play the game. Maybe the Bulls sent him to Italy. Okay, you know what is also weird? He was drafted in 1986 in the 6th round, 120th overall. That's when they were drafting random ass people like Carl Lewis, people who wouldn't even play. And Pete, he was drafted by the Bulls. And years later, he made his return to Chicago to play the role of Jordan Light. And you know, he did a damn good job. And that man needs some credit. Jeez man, Pete Myers, I need to get this kind of show. Okay, Pete catches the bounce pass from BJ, and with a sliver of available light and awkward positioning, he artfully absorbs this pass and redirects it into a perfect, I'm using the word perfect on purpose here, a perfectly placed bounce pass of his own delivered right into the pocket of the charging Bull. And if you go back here, look at him, he wants it. He's not shying from this moment, he wants the ball. He calls for it, and I swear he put some backspin on the ball, because the pass is a half step behind Scottie, but it still gets gathered right into his stride. He reaches back for it a little bit, but it looks like it's coming towards him right at the end. This may very well have been a practice situation, but bad players don't make these types of plays. You know, maybe he's not a regular season player, maybe he's the guy that rises to the situation and the pressure, but Pete Myers delivered the only pass possible to make the greatest dunk of all times possible. Okay, let's get into the dunk. Scottie is known for this, dunking on folks. And I'd say this is basically his signature style. It's kind of like a Statue of Liberty type dunk.
Takes it all the way to the rack.
It's a bit of a Clyde Drexler, ball up in the air, but minus the double Dutch legs. Come on, Clyde. Clyde pulled his legs up like he was cold. Clyde would tuck his legs up behind him like he was snuggling up on a couch, waiting for a blankie, waiting to get tucked in. Scottie, on the other hand, Scottie dunks this like a king.
Pippen. Best back. Steps up, gives it to Pippen. Scottie in the middle. Oh, on a 2-on-1. Pippen all the way.
Okay, so the dunk. This was tops, and it was directly over the outstretched arm of our 7-foot blocker. Actually, if you look here, it was over the 7-footer's outstretched arm and leg. Anytime I have a chance to defend Draymond's kick leg, I'll take it. In regular speed, there's almost a second defender, but he wisely and sloppily runs past. Anyway, and then he successfully places the ball into the bucket. It's clean, doesn't rattle around the rim, doesn't bounce off the back. He has a good grab of the rim and great sound. And he had a great sound before dumb folks started miking the rims and nets. For example, in Dallas, this loud-ass noise when the ball rips through. This is enhanced, it's mic'd, it's cartoonish, and very much overdone. It almost drowns out the other sounds, the arena and game noises. So it makes it feel like everything else is empty. You have one noise that's so much higher than the other, everything else sounds dull. For some reason, it makes this place feel empty when you hear that loud swish. And the worst part is that it highlights the heck out of the misses, the bricks. It makes these clunkers sound ridiculous.
Quick shot.
Now let me introduce you to this concept here. This part here. This is impressive because it may feature what I call an in-air boost, an IAB. Again, this may be disputed, but right here, between these two frames, I believe I see some funky physics going on. By the way, funky physics is the answer to how babies are made. Facts aside, just watching where Scottie's arms are at this point, and then here, it can be perceived that in his effort to create separation, he's also gaining a fraction of a second of airtime. And really, this isn't uncommon. We've seen this all before. Blake Griffin takes advantage of this a ton in his posterizer dunks, or thrunks, or whatever. He tends to use people's faces as his personal step stool, which, come on, that is humiliating. The most famous boost dunk may be this Tom Chambers one, and I've always loved this. I don't know who doesn't. Mainly because of how unexpected this was for everyone, including Tom himself. He clearly has a dunk plan in mind, but when the boost happens, everything changed. And personally, the credit I give him is just for hanging on and completing the task, even though he basically has no idea what's going on up there either. Then there's this recent one, which is an extreme example, but just an amazing dunk. Again, the kid gets all the credit in the world for just holding on and not losing control. Okay, back to Scottie. This may have been just a minor boost, but it's noticeable to me, and I believe our eyes are so tuned in to what is normal and what up and down looks like. When we see some magical anomaly, it automatically feels different, which means special.
When Chambers went over Mark Jackson, I mean, that was an awesome dunk.
And that's just one more piece that this dunk had. Now we have the descent, the landing. Which brings me to the final point. No, not final, but our big point of the day. No, fancier. Our transcendent point of the day. Scottie and Patrick, as a unit, complete the coveted Dunk Trifecta. The trifecta of ultimate dunk achievements. And from the other perspective, it's the ultimate dunk humiliations. For Patrick's experience, the steps to maximum humiliation are: first, get dunked on. Number 2, crashing down to the ground violently. And number 3, getting stepped over or teabagged. And I personally can only think of 2 other times that this trifecta has ever been completed, or nearly completed. So, a clean delivery, a violent landing, Ewing goes down, and Scottie, he adds the variable. He adds insult to injury and gives him the all-time bully push, the sit down, be humble push. I mean, he's already going down, and it doesn't seem like Patrick was holding on to him. This is really the only kind of disrespect I've seen from, like, when Shaq dunked on Chris Dudley. That Shaq dunk was humiliating.
Against Dudley.
But the difference is, he didn't push him for no reason here. You can see Christopher's arms all wrapped and cozy around Shaq's thighs there. So Shaq said, "Get the F off of me." But just the pure lack of respect. I'm glad Chris acted mad at the end and followed through with a mini retaliation and a ball toss. Alright, double side note, what's with people throwing the ball at Shaq? I think folks instinctively know that it's their only chance to get a shot in, and they don't want to get too close. Even though Shaq's never been a good fighter, he's never landed an actual punch.
do it in slow-mo.
But old Duds did get off easy. Nobody stood over him. And also, this dunk, this is the Shaq statue. I know Shaq did this particular legs up dunk pose before, plenty of times in his career, but this is a perfect pose that the actual Shaq statue was modeled after. So this very well could have had a bronzed Chris Dudley face right between his golden thighs. Some of those statues, they include other people in them. Some are very unrealistic, but this one, if they would have had a little person getting dunked on, it would have been Chris Dudley. All right, but Shaq left it there. He didn't have a chance to stand over him, so he didn't complete the trifecta. And Scottie did, and he reveled in it. And what's magnificent here about owning a man like that, nobody ever forgets. So Scottie, being so aware of this, how aware, he did a God-blessed callback 2 years later, and everyone immediately knew what he was doing.
Ewing fell down, saves it, and calls time. Pippen obviously taunted him as he stepped over him. How about inducing a sense of deja vu? This was moments ago.
Well, it wasn't a dunk, but Scottie Pippen taunting Patrick. Patrick not happy, walking over the top of him. I think Patrick had flashback memories of when he got dunked on by Scottie Pippen earlier.
I mean, really, this standing over people thing, it's like a primal instinct. It crosses all cultural boundaries and speaks for itself. It's basically the closest we'll ever get to hunting down and ripping open and cannibalizing each other, our enemies, in a civilized sense. Like a lion would, just standing over our prey. And poor, reactive Patrick does basically the only thing a man with an ounce of self-respect can do, this little shove. He did it then and he did it again. And remember, this is the callback, which reminds us of this other play. Remember this? Remember this play here? It's very similar. But the one difference in the Scottie callback and LeBron's step over Draymond was Scottie wasn't half-stepping here. There's nothing gentle about what he did. LeBron, on the other hand, you can see the timidness in his move. LeBron looks like he's tiptoeing over a cat turd in a miniskirt here. Back to Scottie. The off-balance Patrick, the shove, and the seal the deal, and the oldest primal instinct insult, the standover. There's really only one dunk sequence that comes to mind that checks off all these boxes. And it is the official end, the it's all downhill from here moment in Anderson Varejão's career, because the trifecta of embarrassment took place here. This is Dwayne Wade's dunk over Anderson Varejão. It included all three steps: the dunk, the fall, and the clear, slapping the dick stand over him. Bam! Pooch! Oh. But Anderson Varejão showed zero self-respect, no inkling of dignity. Maybe he just thinks everybody's having fun, playing, while he's getting humiliated and his manhood is getting taken away. Okay, so in conclusion here. In my very first video, I set a rule of conduct, and I want to spread this. I want this to become classic law. If you are going to judge a man, judge him by his dunk. This means everything you need to know is right there on display. The attempt, the form, the aggression, the thought, the tactic. And for our friend Scottie, you can see everything you need to know right here. What kind of man and player he is. What he has inside of him. Now, sure, of course, this may be contradicted by other moments in his career, like when he was famously frozen. In Game 3 of this exact same series with 1.8 seconds left and down by 1, Scottie inexplicably was on the bench.
Been on the bench at the crucial climax of last night's showdown with New York. Channel 7's Brad Palmer has the story.
Phil Jackson believes Scottie Pippen's defection was the culmination of a number of frustrating incidents leading up to Patrick Ewing's game-tying basket with less than 2 seconds left in the game. The Bulls called a timeout and designed a play for Tony Kukoc. Scottie Pippen refused to go back in. Instead, he went to the end of the bench, necessitating a second timeout. Pippen and Jackson got into a cussing match, but Scottie still refused to budge.
It wasn't pretty much Phil taking me out of the game. It was like, we exchanged words and I just took a seat.
So it was your decision based on frustration?
Now, as far as the last play of the game goes, Scottie Pippen was not involved in that play. He asked out of the play. I left him off the floor. Well, Ernie, I talked to someone at courtside, and this is basically what happened. Phil drew up the play for Tony Kukoc. Pippen didn't like it, and he said something to Phil. And Phil said, this is the way the play is going to stand. Pippen says, well, then take me out. Phil says, all right, then, go to the bench. And that's why Pippen was not in at the end.
I have no comments on that.
But the Bulls survived without Scottie. Tony Kukoc hit a 22-footer to win it for the Bulls.
Scottie chose not to go on the court last night for his own specific reason. I put in a better passer in Pete Myers. I put in a better passer in Pete Myers. A better passer in Pete Myers.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, but he never had to be clutch. He never had to show up as the main person at the end of the game and demand the ball. I mean, he did say this recently.
I'm not afraid to say that. I don't have clutch genes. I played with a guy that took all the clutch genes out of me.
Now, I know he delivers it in a jokey manner, but that is the truth. Okay, back to the play. So many things could have gone wrong in this play. So many things, from the bounce pass to Scottie just missing the dunk, to it not delivering him directly to Spike. You take away any of these things, and this may not be the goatiest dunk. It may just be another great dunk. But all this delivery under pressure makes for a one-of-a-kind dunk. But there is one missing thing, and it annoys the heck out of me. It's the complimentary play call. The guys in the booth, the guys on the sideline blew it. Mind you, we're just talking about the national broadcast here, the big dogs, the ones who should get it right. Here, listen. God, this really upsets me. Wait a second. What? Elevation? What, Hubie? Okay, and it doesn't get any better than that. Because the problem is... Alright, bring the music back. Problem is, they're playing catch-up the entire time. He can't get a full transcendent recap out. He's constantly trying to catch up. And then he's caught off guard by the Spike Lee situation and loses his previous thought. But he can't grasp this one either. He bumbles his way through all of it.
Right there. Alonzo said, and Scottie Pippen just went over to tell Spike Lee a few things also. Because as Pippen dunked,
He's performing like an amateur, and all the threads are left uncontextualized and undramatized. First reaction was fine. Oh baby, oh wow. But now you have to regroup and drop the line that will raise this moment to a standalone, editable moment, where 5 seconds of video and 4 seconds of your audio completely explains what just happened. So where do you start? Well, the rule is you must say everyone's name. That is the key. Here's an example.
From the floor. It's all good. Up high, down hard. Rajon Rondo.
Here's another one.
J.R. Smith. We just saw men fly.
Here's another one.
A Smith screen. Posey will defend. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life.
And yes, those are all Kevin Harlan, because Kevin Harlan gets it. But wait, there's others. How has this become an iconic call?
He gets it out deep and Havlicek steals it. Havlicek goes. Havlicek stole the ball. It's all over. It's all over.
He's just repeating the same thing multiple times, but he did his job. He followed the play calling rules. Then this one.
What a play by Derek Harper.
And again, I believe this call is keeping this clip alive long past its expected expiration date. Again, watch the Dwayne Wade dunk and listen to how Marv Albert handles it.
O'Neal got a piece of it. Wade. Yes, and a foul. Wade going right at Anderson Varejao.
And after Marv delivers a masterclass on big play calls, even Reggie understands you get plenty of chances to make the iconic call. You can get it in during the replay.
And Dwayne Wade right at the body of Anderson Varejao. Welcome to your Kodak moment, Anderson Varejao.
Reggie Miller single-handedly trying to keep the Kodak company alive and relevant. I believe they are out of business. Now, in our dunk, the dunk that we are examining today, these joke farts never got around to the actual work. But also, back to D Wade's dunk, here's a little caveat. The reason this is not a GOAT dunk is just purely because of the situation. I might say this is actually a better performed dunk, but it doesn't have the cast and the setting. In order to make this Dwayne Wade dunk the GOAT dunk, let's swap in a few different pieces, just to really pile on how great the Scottie Pippen dunk was. All right, first of all, let's move this game to the second round of the playoffs instead of a regular season game, maybe game 5, and this puts the Heat up 3-2, okay? Also, we have to swap Anderson Varejao to, let's say, well, it has to be the other team's best player, so it has to be on LeBron. Not quite a shot blocker, but it'll work. Now this dunk is elevated. It's becoming a bubble rising to the top of the thick, lumpy oatmeal. But now, let's say the biggest troll of the game is mouthing off on the sideline. Let's go ahead and hire Drake to play a very fitting role. Okay? So after dunking all over the Heat and LeBron and pushing him down, he arcs right by Drake and tells him to sit the f down. Now we're getting somewhere. This dunk is now the GOAT dunk. But until that day, when a single dunk scenario stacks up all those qualifications and checks off all those boxes, until that day, Scottie Pippen will wear the crown as his dunk. This dunk is your answer to the greatest dunk of all time.
I felt like I could touch the roof. Maybe the greatest dunk in the history of the game.
Again, thank you for watching. Remember, our topics are not timely, they are timeless. So enjoy, watch some more videos, subscribe, hit the notification. Hit the notification. Hit that notification. Oh.
This is the NBA Storyteller.
Thank you for watching.
I know he's back near the mean streets where he grew up.